Welcome, everybody, to my YouTube channel. If you're just joining me for the first time, I say thank you for joining. And if you are a returning viewer to my channel, I say welcome back. It's good to have you. If you still haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. That keeps me going, and I could do more videos. So let's get started. Someone sent me an email, a message on LinkedIn asking for some suggestion around how to handle a VP who attends the retrospective and they disrupt the flow of it. And I thought, how about I address this, in my YouTube channel, give everybody opportunity to just learn from this question. But first, what is Sprint Retrospective? What does the Scrum Guide tells us about Sprint Retrospective? And the Scrum Guide says the purpose of a Sprint Retrospective is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. So the team is looking at how to inspect on their sprint, the last sprint, what went wrong or what went well with regards to individuals, interaction processes, tools, definition of done. So they're basically inspecting a lot of things, but most importantly, they're looking at what is it that they can do to make a difference next sprint, right? And the sprint retrospective is time boxed to a maximum of 3 hours. That's if you're doing a 1 month sprint, but shorter for sprints which are usually shorter. For the sprint retrospective, it is very, very important that you have the right people in the room. It is very important that you create psychological safety, because more often people are not ready to speak out, right? And if you are in an environment, a toxic environment, or an environment where people don't feel comfortable speaking out, you're not going to have a good retrospective. I love retrospective, just so you know. And that's because it's a place to get people to talk. If you have the right tools, if you have the right techniques, it's a place to inspect and adapt, right? You imagine a team working all through the sprint and they carry on working, not stopping to kind of, all right, what can we do better? Because I always believe that there are 1,001 ways to do things, but you need to stop first and then reflect on what you're doing before you can find the 1,001 ways to improve. The retrospective, I typically, as a Scrum Master, would own that in the sense that you are looking at the what the developers has been doing throughout the sprints, because they have their heads down, coding, developing, whatever they're doing. And you as a Scrum Master are looking at what am I noticing here, right? What can I surface to the team when it comes to the retrospective? So when I was Scrum Mastering, I would start looking at planning for the retrospective at the very first day of the sprint, so as to give the team something to chew on. Honestly, a lot of times I don't remember what I ate the previous night, so I have to document things. So you can imagine your team, 10 days, they probably are focusing on something else. So as a Scrum Master, you want to capture those moments as you go along in a sprint. And that helps you as well in terms of the tool, the technique, or the activity that you want to use in facilitating the daily Scrum. Sorry, I said in facilitating the retrospective. Another thing, or perhaps a question to you: who attends the retrospective? or who attends your retrospective? Well, the Scrum team. So we have the PO, we have the Scrum Master, and we have the developers. And who are the developers? The developers are anybody that works on the team. So we're not talking about programmers here, but we're talking about the programmers, the marketing manager, the BAs, the architect. So anybody that is part of the Scrum team that develop is a developer, right? So the Scrum team is they are the only people that attend the retrospective. So back to the question that I said someone asked me, they said that they have this person who is a VP that attend the retrospective, and that they tend to be disruptive about the retrospective. When they come in, I'm not quite sure what they do, but this VP, it's a small organization. So this VP will, whatever they do, disrupt. And I thought, why would a VP attend the retrospective? But then a VP can attend a retrospective if they have a role within the team, if they have a role within the Scrum team. I have worked with organizations whereby someone would have a title of a VP, but they are the product owner, right? So their role on the team is that of a product owner, but their title is a VP. So would you say they shouldn't come to the retrospective? Of course they will come. However, you want to distinguish between their role and their title. When they're coming to the retrospective, they are the PO. Outside of the Scrum team, they are the VP. Although that situation was a bit awkward, I wouldn't suggest that people who are high ranked, very at the top, are part of the Scrum team. But when you work in a small organization, everybody has those big titles. So it does often happen that someone who is up there will be part of a Scrum team. But as a Scrum Master, when you find yourself in that situation, you want to talk to that person about ranks and power and authority. So you want to communicate with them how they show up, because they might not even be aware. So how do they show up when they get to the team's retrospective? Because they bring these ranks and authority and power with them. And the team will look at that. So whatever that person says, the team is going to be like, oh, okay, we'll go with that, simply because that person said that, and not necessarily because it's true. That, you would notice, is creating psychological safety, or the lack of it, for the team on that basis. However, what happens if this person is not part of the team? So they're not part of the Scrum team, but they're attending the retrospective. That to me, I'm questioning, what are they doing there? Why would you even invite someone who is not part of the Scrum team to your retrospective? Because the retrospective is a safe place. It's like a Vegas rule thing. So whatever you do in retrospective stays in retrospective. And I know some organizations will say, "Oh, publish what your retrospective action items and all those things." Yep, publish your retrospective action items for visibility, because you have to inspect and adapt. But you do not share what went on in that retrospective session. So if you have someone who is not part of the Scrum team trying to attend the retro, you have to, as a Scrum Master, let them know the purpose of the retrospective and what the impact of having them might have on the team. So back in my early days of being a Scrum Master, I used to work in an organization where managers, resource managers, they call them back in the days, will be part of the Scrum team. But you have to understand they're still trying to transition from the waterfall approach to the Scrum. So it was kind of like very difficult trying to understand the role of the resource manager in Scrum. But anyway, so this manager will attend the retrospective because it was the setup. That's the cadence before I joined. And I would allow them, one, because the team didn't mention anything, and two, I was still new to Scrum Mastering, so I didn't know how to approach that much. But what I do notice was that the team was not talking much at the retrospective. So I said, what can I do about this? I wasn't too sure. So I had to seek help from people who were, Scrum Masters and have experience. So the first thing was to speak to this person, to this resource manager, and say, hey, you bring valuable insight into the retrospective, but have you noticed that not a lot of people speak up? So I had that conversation. And the other conversation was with the team and say, what would you like your retrospective to be? Right? What would you like to see? So what I then did was to ease this person, the resource manager, gently out of the retrospective. First, it was, maybe you should come at this part of the retro. So maybe the first half or the later part or sometime in the middle. And that's because they wanted to still contribute. So great. So we had that agreement. So they would then come some part of a retrospective, which gave the team some safety. And it's not as if there was any thing hidden to discuss, but it gave them that environment to be able to speak freely. So, and then I thought, all right, when do you as a team, not want this person around? So I guess what I'm trying to say is always take it back to your Scrum team. What is it that they want to see? So to this particular example, it came to a point, I think after my like 4 or 5 sprints, I just redo the sprint retrospective invite again. So I didn't own it before. I then took ownership of the meeting invite and then send this person a meeting invite. But I would have a conversation with them just to kind of like bring them up to speed about what is happening because there's developers report to them. But I never gave details of what happened in the retrospective. But it is quite a tricky one if you work in a small organization. But I would say make friends with that person. Let them understand what the Scrum guide, obviously you don't want to be too scrummy or too booky when you're having that conversation. Let them understand why the team needs that space. And you might want to create another space for this VP should they want to have a conversation with the team, right? The Scrum, the retrospective is mainly for the team and no one else. And we have to, as a Scrum Master, make sure we're communicating what Scrum is to people around us. And remember that your job as a Scrum Master is not just to the team, it's to the organization, it's to the PL and developers. So you are, as a Scrum Master, have the accountability to ensure that people around you understand what the Scrum guide says or what Scrum says about a particular thing, especially when it comes to Scrum events and how it works. So I'm just checking if there was any other question that needed answer to this question. And I think the person is doing everything right in terms of how they facilitate their Scrum retrospective. Here is another thing. please try and change your retrospective activities from time to time. I have seen Scrum Masters day in, day out at the end of a sprint doing what went well, what didn't go well, and any improvement or something like that. And I'm smiling because I remember going to an organization somewhere, and I'm not going to reveal where, and that's the retrospective every sprint. You can imagine how boring it is. But my observation of it was that when they finished their sprint review, I did not know it was a 3-in-1, and I'll explain it. So the 3-in-1 being that they add the sprint review, which wasn't a sprint review, and we're going to talk about sprint review in another video of mine, so stay tuned. So they did this sprint review, and before I know what was going on, they move on to sprint retrospective. What I noticed was that everybody was grabbing a piece of paper and writing things down. And I said, and then I spoke to the Scrum Master, what's going on? They went, oh, we're doing the retrospective now. Wow, okay. They all knew what to write in terms of what went well, what didn't go well. And there was nothing about what they should improve. And I asked everyone, I said, aren't you feeling this column of what to improve? They said, oh, no, there's nothing to improve. We know what we're doing. And that was a huge shock. Here's the thing. If you are doing retrospective and you don't have any action items or actionable items out of that sprint retrospective, you might as well not do your retrospective. You might as well not do a sprint retrospective. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And please do not rush retrospective. Retrospective is not a place for the team to bash one another. It is not a place where you single out one person. Oh, Kemi, by the way, what happened to you? You didn't finish that story during the sprint. What did you not do very well? It is not about Kemi. It is not about one person or two people. It is about the team. It is about what could we have done better, right? Or what did we do better that we can learn from? And you can also learn from what you didn't do very well so that you don't repeat it, right? So please always have an action item coming out of your sprint retrospective. And these actionable items could also be added to the team sprint backlog. Yeah, it has to be visible. So you can add it to your sprint backlog so that everybody knows what the team is improving upon. And you can also have someone who is responsible, so an owner for that item, action item. And it doesn't mean that that person has to see to execute that. It just means that they are accountable as well as the team, but they make sure that it happens. Kind of like maybe reminding the team. And does you as a Scrum Master need to own every single thing on the items on the list? No. The team owns it as well. When I'm saying the team, I mean the developers as well. You're not there to take everything off their plate. You are there to cause the remover of things. So when your team is new, you can show them how to do it, but gradually you phase in, phase out. All right, let me demonstrate how to do this. And then the next is, do we have a volunteer to do this? And then you observe or you support them. And gradually they can pick up things to do. And I know some Scrum Masters kind of like worry about, so what do I do as a Scrum Master if I am not doing anything? That's a topic for another video, which I might just share with you. What does a Scrum Master do when your team gets better and better? Understanding Scrum, right? Facilitate your retrospective in such a way that people want to come back. Try and use different techniques, activities, and Scrum. The retrospective does not have to be in Zoom or Teams, whatever you use. It doesn't have to be in an office. Now that things are opening up, go out, have lunch, go bowling, do stuff, right? It doesn't have to be everybody sitting in one place and racking their brains on about what to do. Be creative about your retrospective, because that's a place to get the best out of your team. All right, so I do hope I have given this person some ideas on how to kind of like handle situation whereby you have a titled person attending the Scrum team retrospective. Speak to them, speak to the team. Like someone always say to me, take it back to the team, right? And the team might not want to speak given the this person's rank. Let the person knows how their rank or how their behavior is impacting the team, right? And don't feel like you have to invite everybody. Don't feel like you have to invite, even if you're a small organization, support your team. All right. So that's about it for now. If you want to see more of this, subscribe to my channel. It keeps me happy as well, just so you know. And comment below, ask questions, send me a question or send me questions that kind of like motivate me and around the topics I can speak about. And I know that someone is listening as well. So subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you are notified when I drop any video. I try to want to drop one every week, but who knows, I might just get super excited and drop I'm just kidding. I'm still trying to get comfortable recording. And just so you know, this has not been edited in any form or shape. So if there are mistakes and everything else, know that this is very raw and not edited. So until the next time I get to be on your computer in your rooms, I would say take care and Scrum on. Bye for now.